All right, so second to last section we're going to look at this week is 2.5, and we're still solving inequalities. It's just the kind of inequalities we're going to solve are called compound, right? And if you think of English a little bit, does anybody know what word in English is a conjunction? And it connects two things. What word? Yeah?
Like or as.
So that's like a comparison. I'm thinking of something different. Yep. And. So we're going to see the word and come up a lot when we do these kind of problems. We're going to see the word and. We're also going to see the word or. Okay, we'll see both. Okay, so on your guided notes, it says a blank. Okay, in that blank where it's bolded, you want to fill in, might need a little more space, but a compound inequality. Okay, is an inequality. It's like a new problem created or formed by taking two separate inequalities and joining them with either the word and if you use the word and, we call it a conjunction, or the word or, a disjunction. Okay, and you might think, well, what's the difference? Like and or, very big difference. All right. If I said to you, like, for homework tonight, you have to either you can do worksheet 1 and worksheet 2, versus me saying worksheet 1 or worksheet 2. Big difference. And means you got to do both, or means you get to pick one or the other. Okay. So compound inequality, there's two types. There's conjunctions and there's disjunctions. Conjunctions have and, disjunctions have or. Okay, so when we want to graph an and, okay, what we're going to be looking for is overlap. Right? So to graph, or the graph of an and inequality is where the two, you want to fill in, overlap. And I'll show you what that means. So where it says to graph, this is what you want to fill in, what's underlined. When we graph an and, what's usually going to happen is we're going to have two dots and we're going to end up connecting them. And I'm going to show you guys a little example with this one. Now, there are some other things that can happen with and, right? But most of the time for you guys, I'm going to give you ones where you have to connect the dots. That's the most common thing that can happen.
I had that on my math lab thing yesterday and I was so confused.
This, all right, well, let's take a look. Hopefully we can deconfuse you.
Yeah.
We'll try. Okay, let's start with this one. X is greater than or equal to 2. All right, well, first of all, I need some numbers on this number line. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't matter. You can put the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 anywhere you want. Just somewhere on the number line. What kind of circle would I put on 2?
Open.
On 2?
On 2? Oh, open.
Why?
Because it has the equal sign.
It does have the equal sign. So when it has the equal, you want to close it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Think of having this extra thing on the bottom means you can't just draw the circle. You got to do the extra thing and fill it in too. Okay? All right. So we've got a closed circle on 2. And which way would I shade? To the right. All I'm going to do for now is go like this. I'm just going to put a little arrow up above, reminding me, okay, shade right. I'm not going to do it yet. You'll see why. Okay, I'm going to do the shading in a second. Now, look at x is less than 5. So this is an and. Right? So what kind of circle would I need on 5? An open circle. And which way would I shade there? To the left. Okay? Now, I want you to just watch this for a second because you might not have different colors and I'm going to erase it, so just watch. If you forget about the other one, and all you did was shade left from this one, it would look like this.
Oh, I just.
Okay? That's shading left from the number 5. Now, if you forgot about the open circle, and you said, you know what, I'm just looking at the closed circle on 2, and I'm just going to shade right, it would look like that. You'd be shading right. But because it's an and, we don't end up shading left and right forever. We basically stop at those dots. So look at this section right here. If you look at that section, you see green and you see red shading together. They're overlapping. If you look out to the right, is there green and red over in the right section? No, there's no overlap. Is there green and red in the left section? No, it's just red, there's no overlap. The only overlap is in the middle, so look what happened. All you basically had to do was connect the dots. Okay, so all you really want to shade in this problem is like this. That's where the overlap from the green and the red was. And that's the graph of a conjunction. So what happens, if you want to think about it, like say I said to you, pick a number greater than or equal to 2 and less than 5. Basically it means between. Right? If I said think of a number in your head that's greater than or equal to 2 and less than 5, you can pick any number between 2 and 5. Can you include 2 as a number you pick? What do you think?
Yes.
Yes, you can, because it says it's greater than or equal to 2. Now, if I said pick a number between 2 and 5, and I wrote it like this, can you pick 5? No, you have to stay less than 5. So you could pick like 4.9, but you can't pick 5. Okay, we're going to do more, but any questions on that one? Okay, so that's basically what an and looks like. Okay, let's look at an or. Okay, so for the graph of an or, we shade everything. Does that mean you just shade everything that you can? You don't have to look for overlap. You shade everything. So, what we're going to do is we're going to graph our dots, we're going to put our circles, and usually we end up shading in opposite directions. So what usually ends up happening is instead of shading what's in the middle, you end up shading everything that's not in the middle. Okay, so let's try this one. Okay, so x is less than 3 or x is greater than or equal to 6. Now, if I put an and there, how come an and wouldn't make sense at all? If I said to you, like, pick a number that is less than 3 and greater than 6. How come that doesn't make sense? Yeah, there's no overlap. You can't do that. If I said, think of a number in your head that's smaller than 3 and bigger than 6. Can't. If you pick a number smaller than 3, it's not going to be bigger than 6. So and wouldn't make sense here, but or does. Okay. Lucas, what kind of circle on? Let's put some numbers in here. What kind of circle on 3?
Open.
Open. And which way would I shade?
Left.
Left. Shade all values less than 3. So you're going to shade this way.
Do we shade it?
Yep, you can actually shade it. With an or, you just shade everything. You don't have to like think ahead and be like, okay, this one's going this way, and this one's this way, so I shade between. No, an or, you just do it right away. How about x is greater than or equal to 6? Stephen, what kind of circle?
Closed and it's going to the right.
Closed, and it's going to the right. That's usually what an or looks like. Doesn't always have to look that way, but it usually points in opposite directions. So, what this means is if I said to you, okay, in your head right now, you can think of a number that's less than 3, or think of a number that's greater than or equal to 6. some people may say, okay, I'm just going to go with the first one because he said or, so I can do either one. Less than 3, 0. And that would be over here. Okay, that's definitely in the shaded part. Now, because it says or, some people may say, all right, I'm going to pick a number that's greater than or equal to 6. I'm going to pick 10. And that would be over in this section. And that's fine. You can pick one or the other. Okay, and is like it has to be both, right? So think of an and like when you log into like an account online. You've got username and password. Which one of them has to be correct?
Both.
Both. It's an and. You have to have the right username and the right password. It's not an or. Like if you type in the right username and you get that part right, but you get the password wrong, it's not going to work. Or if you type in the right password and the wrong username, it's not going to work. Right? It's an and. Right? Now, on my phone, when I log into it, I have 2 ways I can log in. It has the eye scanning thing, so I just hold it up and it scans your eye. Or I can type in my password. I don't need to do both. If I hold it up and my eyes are open and it scans my eye, it'll sign into the phone. Or I can type in my password and it'll sign me into the phone. I don't have to do both. One or the other will work. Okay? So that's kind of the difference between and or. Yep, just sign out. All right, so we already had said this. The and statement is known as a conjunction. Okay. Here's another example. You can fill that in on your blank of a conjunction. Now, something that's a little tricky about conjunctions. You don't have to write them with the word and. There's a way you can shorten it and hide the word and. Okay? I'm going to tell you right now, with an or, there is no other way to write a disjunction. If you want to write a disjunction, you've got to write it this way. Okay? There's no short way to do it. Okay? But there is a short way to write this. Okay? And I'm going to show you that. So, this can be written as a single thing without the word and. It kind of makes the word and invisible. It's still there, and when you read it, you would pronounce the word, but you don't have to write it. Okay, so here's how you do it. Step 1, put the variable in the middle. So we'll actually do this one as we go. Okay. What's the variable in what I've underlined? No, and is a conjunction.
Yes.
What's the variable? X. We're going to put the X in the middle. In a minute, we're going to have something on the left and something on the right of it. So put the X in the middle. It says, step 2, put the smaller number on the left. Put the bigger number on the right. Okay, so look at the 2 numbers. Out of the 2 numbers I circled, can somebody tell me which one is the smaller one? -1. Put the smaller number on the left. Put the bigger number on the right. What's the bigger number? 4. And we're almost done, but we don't have any symbols in there yet. Okay, we gotta put in 2 symbols. When you write it as a conjunction, you had 2 symbols. One here, one here. Bless you. So step 3 is both inequality symbols should point to the left. If you don't like thinking of it that way, you could say they point to the smaller number. You could think of it that way too. But they should point to the left. Move that.
What's number 2 say?
Number 2 says put the smaller number on the left and the bigger number on the right. Okay, so both inequality symbols should point to the left. So you have a choice. There's two different symbols that point to the left. This one and that one. Look at the symbol between the x and the -1. Does it have the little line under it? Maya?
What?
So look at the symbol between the x and the -1.
Yes.
Does it have the little line under it?
No.
No. So when it points to the left, don't put the little line under it. How about the symbol between the x and the 4?
What?
No, it doesn't.
That doesn't have the little line under it. So we don't put the little line under it.
I'm confused.
Now, if the original problem was this, you would do that. Okay, I'm gonna erase that. Because it doesn't have any lines under the originals, so you don't put any other lines under it when you do it. So let's take a look at that. That is that. Okay, I'll explain how in a second.
Okay, nice.
This is that.
Oh, that's easy.
So the one in the green, I mean, you can just see it directly, right? X is less than 4. X is less than 4. Now look at the one in red. -1 is less than x. Let me write that down. -1 is less than x. Okay. Is that wrong to write something that way? It's not wrong. Why don't I like it though? What don't I like about that?
Because if you try to do a number line, then you would automatically think it's pointing this way when really it's pointing that way because
Right.
the letter should be over here.
Right, we normally like to put the letter here, the number here, and look, what was it pointing at originally?
The negative.
-1.
So this part right here is really exactly the same as the one above it. Okay? It does get switched. When you write a conjunction all as one thing, that's just how it happens. Okay? But the red part is on the left, and the green part is on the right. And if you were to read this, you would basically say x is greater than -1. You read it from the middle. X is greater than -1, and x is less than 4. You actually read it exactly the same way as up here. You read it the same way. All right, let's I don't have a spot, but let's just try one more of those ourselves. So x is greater than or equal to 2, and x is less than 12. I want to combine those two into one. So who can tell me what's my first step? Yep,
Put the variable in the middle.
put the variable in the middle. Step 1. Okay? What's my second step? Steven?
Put the signs down.
So symbols and signs are going to come in step 3.
Put the number.
Put the numbers, yeah?
And put the smaller number on the left and the bigger one on the right.
So smaller number on the left, bigger number on the right. And now which way should the symbols point?
Left.
They both are going to point to the left. We just have to remember if there was a line under it, there still has to be a line under it. So the original one is pointing at the 2. Does it have a line under it?
Yeah.
Then when it's pointing at the 2, it needs to still have the line under it. It's the same thing. It's still pointing at the 2. Pointing at the 2. Now, the one that's pointing at the x, does it have a line under it? No. Then when I write it here, it's pointing at the x, no line under it. And that's your answer. Okay. Does that make more sense than the first one?
Yeah.
Okay, so this part is right here, and this part is right here. So the blue box goes with the blue box, the green box goes with the green box. But yes, it does get flipped. That's just the way it works. If you put the smaller number on the left and the bigger number on the right. Okay, so any questions on that? Now, I don't want to confuse people, okay, but I'm going to show you something because I don't know if your math lab teacher is going to show you this. This is technically exactly the same thing. You don't have to write that down because I don't want to confuse you. It's like the reverse of what I did. Instead of putting the smaller number on the left and the bigger number on the right, I flipped it. But look, x pointing at 2, x pointing at 2. X right here, between the x and the 12, it's pointing at the x. Between the x and the 12, look, it's pointing at the x. Those two are exactly the same. So if you do it in Math Lab, your teacher might show you how to do it this way.
He doesn't really show us anything. He just puts us on IXL.
You just go on IXL? Okay. Well, I don't know if IXL is going to show you something like that, but I'm going to do it like this because I just want to stick with one way. So I'm always going to put smaller left, bigger right. But you can switch it, but I'm not going to do that. Okay? So we'll stick with the top one. Okay, so example 1. Okay, you guys already have it written. It says a number x is greater than -8 and less than or equal to to 4. So let's start with this part. X is greater than -8. So you've got x. Which way does greater than point? Which way?
It'd be that way. Like
So which one of these is greater than? This one or that one?
that one, the second one.
The second one. So it's pointing to the right. Okay? Pointing, if you think of it like an arrow, if you made an arrow out of that, it's pointing to the right. So x is greater than -8 and it says less than or equal to 4. What? What's less than or equal to 4? X, right? So sometimes what I do is when we speak in English, we don't normally say this. Like I wouldn't say to you, all right, x is greater than -8 and x is less than or equal to 4. I can leave out the x and you know what I mean, right? But if you add it, it makes more sense. X is less than or equal to 4. Can somebody tell me how I would write that one? X is less than or equal to 4. Yep.
X, and then it's pointing to the left, and then 4.
4. Yep. And there's one word I'm missing that's in the sentence that I didn't write down.
And
I didn't put the and. Okay. So that's the first step. Now, the directions here, we've done it. It said write each sentence as an inequality. I would give you full credit if you wrote that. That is fine. Can somebody tell me the shorter way you could write this? And I would also give you full credit for that. Yep.
Put the x in the middle,
Okay.
and then put the numbers down.
Which number is going to go on the left?
-8,
On the right?
and then 4.
4?
And then make both the symbols go left.
Both left. The one between the x and the -8, put a line under it or no?
No.
No. The one between the x and the 4, put a line under it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Yep. I would give you full credit if you wrote the top one or the bottom one. Both of them are correct. Okay, now let's do a graph. Okay, remember, think in your head, when you do an and, what does the graph look like? You have 2 circles, and you end up shading where? In the middle. Okay, so keep that in mind. Let's make our number line. I'm going to go by 2s. I don't think I had enough room to go by 1s. Okay. What kind of circle on -8? Open or closed? Yep.
open.
Open.
Wait, so it's like optional if you want to do like either the first way you did it or the second?
Yes.
Do either?
Yep.
Okay.
It's just if I give you something like this on a test and I say graph it, you have to know what it means.
Yeah.
Okay? It means the same as the one above it. All right. So we've got open on -8. And which way do I shade? I think it might be easier to look at the original one to tell which way to shade. Come on.
You shade to the right.
I'm going to shade to the right. remember, an and, just put a little arrow above it for a minute. So you're going to shade right, but you don't shade right forever. You're going to stop somewhere. Okay? What kind of circle on 4? Open or closed? Kelsey? Closed. And which way do I shade there? To the left. But I'm not going to shade left forever. I'm going to stop.
Why is the arrow over the 8 going that way if the sign isn't going that way?
Well, that's why I would look back at the original one.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because if you look at this one, it's not letter, symbol, number. There is no way to write it as letter, symbol, number in the short way. I can't do it. It's impossible. So the disadvantage to the short way is one side looks good, letter, symbol, number. The other side doesn't. Okay, so that can be a little tricky. That's why when I do these, I always think of it the original with the word and actually written. Yeah?
Do you have to write it the shorter way?
No, you could, unless it's said to, you can do it either way.
What would it say?
It would say write as one inequality without the word and. So that's one without the word and. Okay, so we shade from the open circle right, from the closed circle left. That means we shade between. Okay. Any question on that one? Maybe in a second we'll practice taking something like this and changing it back to the long way. You guys have been changing it from the long way to the short way. It's also good to go from the short way to the long way. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's look at this one. A number y is less than 0 or greater than 2. Does yours say, yours says something a little different? Yours says a number y is at most 0. Let's change it to this. It's really kind of the same thing. But on yours, just change a number y is less than 0 or greater than 2. So let's start with the first part. Y is less than 0. Jayliana, how am I going to write y is less than 0?
Y less than sign.
Yep,
0.
that's it. So y is less than 0 or greater than 2. What's greater than 2? What are they talking about here?
Y.
Yeah, so y is less than 0 or y is greater than 2. How would I write y greater than 2? Joe?
You put y
Yep.
with the greater than
Yep.
sign in 2.
2. And then there's a word I need in the middle. Is it, yeah.
Ours is different.
Yeah, I just said to change it to that one. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna put or. You gotta put the word or. Now, is there a short way to write an or? What do you think? Is there a shorter way to write an or? Well, there's a shorter way to write an and. Right? I gave you guys all these steps. Did I give you guys steps for shortening up an or? No, I didn't give you steps because there are no steps. You cannot shorten up an or. That's as short as you can get. That's all you can do. Right? Okay, so let's graph that. Okay, Leilani, what kind of circle on 0?
Open.
Open. And we're going to shade which way?
You're gonna shade it to the
Right.
I mean left.
Yeah, it's pointing left, so we want to shade to the left. Now with an or, just go ahead and shade right away. You don't have to think about like shading in the middle or anything like that. Just shade everything you can. So we're gonna shade everything less than 0. Or what kind of circle on 2?
Open.
Open. Shade which way?
Right.
To the right. Yep. So you can pick anything less than 0 or bigger than 2. Either way. Okay. Any question on that? All right. Let's look at this one. I'm just going to make one up because I don't think you guys have one exactly like. Actually, yeah, we can. All right, we'll deal with it when we get to B. Okay, so solve each inequality and then graph it. So this is an and it's split into 2. In a minute, I'm going to have you guys do an and that's all together in 1. And the first step is going to be to split it into 2. So when we solve it, we always want to have 2 separate ones to solve. It just makes it easier. And you solve them basically like we did yesterday. Okay? We'll do each one separate. So let's start with the one on the left. Jaden, what's my first step? And actually my first and only step. To get.
Subtract 5 from 5 and next.
Yep. Don't worry about the other one. We're gonna do that after. 5 minus 5 is gone. And Jaden, can you tell me what you'll get for an answer?
Negative 11.
Hey, can you tell me the whole thing?
X is greater than negative 11.
Perfect. So x is greater than negative 11. And now we're going to solve the other one. Kayla, how do I solve this other one?
Subtract 5 from this one.
Yep. Just a coincidence that you also had to subtract 5 in both of them. That doesn't always happen. It's just because they both had a number 5 in them. So 5 minus 5 is gone. And 20 minus 5 gives me 15. So Julia, is x by itself yet? No, I got one more step. And what's my last step? Yep, by what? 3 divided by 3. Should I be flipping the sign?
No.
No. Same rules still apply. I didn't divide by a negative, so I'm not going to flip it. So x is less than 15 divided by 3 gives me 5. Nice. So that is your answer. Don't forget the word and. It had the word and when we started. It's going to have the word and when we finish. You can't forget that. All right, so solve, and now we're going to graph it. Let's go by 2's again. That might be okay. So I'm going to go like negative 12, negative 10, negative 8, negative 6. 0, 2, 4, 6. Just enough room. You probably could have gone by 3's. That would have worked as well. And you wouldn't have to write as much. Great. So how about Tristan? What kind of circle on negative 11?
Open.
Open. And which way are we going to shade?
To the right.
To the right. This is an and. So I don't want to shade yet because with an and I usually end up stopping. Okay? We're going to shade right, but not forever. We're going to stop somewhere. So let's see where we stop. Okay. Stephen, what kind of circle on 5? Open or closed?
Open.
Yep. And shade which way?
To the left.
To the left. Okay. So now I know I'm going to shade from this circle to the right and this circle to the left, and they're going to meet in the middle. And that's what it should look like. Okay. Any question on that one? Okay, so now let's look at one more conjunction, a little different. Okay. We know that this is an and because anytime you've got something in the middle and then something on the left and the right, it's always an and. Okay, you can't write an or without writing the word or. You've got to put the word or. So, a little tricky. So the first thing I'm going to do is split it into 2. I don't want it like that. I don't want it the short way. I want it written the long way. Okay. So this is what I usually do to write it the long way. Put a box around that. Put another box like that. What's in the red box is going to go on the left. What's in the blue box is going to go on the right. The middle is in both boxes. That's the way it always works. Okay? So on the left, you're going to solve that one. That's the red box. What's on the right? We're going to put the blue box. And now from here, it's just like the last problem. Is there any questions on how I split that up? Okay, so just remember, the middle is used in both parts. The -3 is only on the left, and the 9 is only in the right. Okay, so let's we'll solve them and see what we get. How about Mackenzie? What's my first step to solve the one on the left?
You're gonna minus 1 from both sides.
Yep. And actually, what's kind of nice about these, when you split them up yourself, it's going to be exactly the same steps on both sides. Okay. So you -1 from both sides here. You're also going to -1 from both sides here. You don't have to do both at the same time. That might confuse people. But -1, that's gone. How about, Aileen, what's -3 minus 1?
-2, -4.
-4. All right. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. Should I flip? You think? Yeah. No, I divided by +2, so we're just going to leave it the way it is. -2 is less than x. Is that okay as an answer?
Yes.
What don't I like about it?
It's not letter symbol.
I like letter symbol number better, but that is not wrong. Okay? I would do it like this. What should it be pointing at?
-2.
Yep, should be pointing at the -2. Right, and now let's finish up this one. 1 minus 1 here gives me, cancels out. What's 9 minus 1?
8.
You get 8. And divide each side by 2, divide by 2. Nope, don't flip it. What's 8 divided by 2? 4. Okay, I'm not going to graph that one. You guys could graph it. You'd put an open circle on -2, an open circle on 4, and where would you shade?
In the middle.
In the middle. Yep, you just shade in the middle. All right, so example 3. We've got an or. We've already kind of done these. We can do one more, and then that's our last one. All right, so we'll do this or. Yeah. Yep. So take a second, maybe try that one on your own. Okay. Solve what's on the left. Solve what's on the right. And then remember, when you do an or, it usually points in opposite directions. It's not in the middle. That's an and. Okay. So take maybe 3. I'll give you guys like 3 minutes, and then we'll look at that. Okay. So first, can somebody tell me? We haven't talked about these two words since kind of the beginning of the lesson. Is that a conjunction or disjunction?
Disjunction.
Yeah, disjunction because of the word or. Okay. How about Kelsey? Can you tell me my first step for the one on the left to get x by itself?
You have to add 5.
Good.
Side.
Nice. I'm gonna add 5 on both sides. What's -1 plus 5?
4.
4. Maya, should I flip the sign?
No,
No. Why not?
because you're not dividing and multiplying.
By a
Negative.
negative, right? So we're gonna keep the sign just like that. Blake, what's my last step?
Divide 2.
Yep. And that's gonna give me for a final answer what?
X is greater than 2. Meant less than.
Less than, yep. X is less than 2. Or, don't forget to write the word or. Huge difference between or and, is you've got to put the word or. And now let's solve the one on the right. Joe, what's my first step?
I subtract 8.
Good, subtract 8. And we're going to get 3x is greater than 29 minus 8. Yeah,
21.
nice, 21. And last step. What's my, Julia, what's my last step? Yep, by. We're going to divide by 3. Divide by 3. Should I flip? What do we think? Flip or no flip?
No.
No, don't flip it. X is greater than 7. Now, when we graph a disjunction, or when we graph an or, which way do the arrows usually go? Away from each other, right? So let's go like this. Open circle on 2, arrows pointing to the left, so you should shade left. Open circle on 7, just put it right in the middle of 6 and 8. Arrows, the symbols pointing to the right, you should shade to the right. And that's exactly what Kelsey said. They should be pointing away, and they are. Great. Questions before we look at last problem? Okay. So, last one says that electrical devices operate efficiently within a certain temperature range. Have you ever been outside with your phone when it's really cold? It's like 0 out, and your phone just won't turn on?
Yeah.
So what happens is the battery, like when I was hiking over the winter and it was like, it's probably like 10 degrees out. The battery got so cold that it just couldn't turn back on. Or it would turn on for like 20 seconds and then it would just shut right off. And then once it warmed back up, it was working fine. I didn't have to charge it back up or anything. It just had to get warmer again. So sometimes if you've got a battery, same thing in your car. Sometimes it's really, really cold. People are trying to start their car. It doesn't start. It's because it's too cold. If they took that car and it was like 90 out, it would probably start fine, right? But just the way it works. So for these electrical devices, it says the best temperature range, this is for a smartphone, is between 32 and 105. Okay? You can have the opposite problem if it gets too hot. Anybody have a phone where if you've had it on, maybe leave it in the sun all summer, and it says your phone is too warm, it turns off? That's because it knows if it tried to keep going, just like humans, right? You're like dehydrated and you're too hot and you try to keep going, it's not going to be good. So it just shuts itself off. So it says, write an inequality that represents the temperature range in this problem. So can someone kind of explain to me, in like, just in general, what temperature should my phone operate best at? Yeah?
Between.
You already said the important word I was looking for. You said between. Between, think about when you shade between the circles. Is that an and or an or? That's an and. So this is going to be an and. Let's start with this part. We don't have a value, we need a variable. What should we pick for a variable here? X. Right. So we know we want the temperature to be what? Compared to 32 degrees. Right?
Yes.
What do we want the temperature to be?
We want the
Comparing
temperature
To 32.
we want it to be somewhere.
You want more than 32 or less than 32?
You want it more than 32 because
Right.
if it was less, then it'd be that.
Right. We want the temperature more than or equal. They're not really specific here. I don't really know. Can it be 32? Or does it have to be warmer than 32? Because things freeze at 32. So should it be like 32.1? I don't know. But we'll just say we could be greater than or equal to 32. And, Olivia, how about the other part?
Less than or equal to 105?
What's less than or equal to 105?
X.
Yes. So I want my temperature greater than or equal to 32 and less than or equal to 105. Okay, last thing, if somebody wanted to shorten that and put it all together, maybe say I gave you bonus points if you wrote it the short way. How would you write this the short way? Yep.
32 is greater than or equal to X, and then we put, less than or equal to 105.
Okay, and this first one, what should this one be again?
Greater than or equal
Which way does it have to point?
to, towards the 32.
It's got to point towards the 32. So when you put it all together as one of these has to flip. Okay, it's just kind of the way it works. But this is how you'd write it the short way. I would accept either answer. Okay, any questions on that? All right. So, homework tonight, I'll give you guys the worksheet. Remember, this is the last homework for the term, okay? Last day of new material, tomorrow. Take home test.
I have the extra credit thingy?
Take home test tomorrow night for homework, okay?